Welcome back to another episode of Sharing is Caring. I'm your host, Go, and today we have a special guest, Hester, joining us. Polly is an entrepreneur, artist, and a talented cook. She shares with us her experiences growing up in the South and the rich food culture that comes with it, from family gatherings to neighborhood meals. Polly's stories will make your mouth water and your heart warm. We also discussed the importance of cooking together and the power of food to bring people closer. So grab a snack and join us as we dive into the delicious world of Southern cooking. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and thank you for being faithful listeners. Now, let's get cooking.
Great. So, hi, Holly. How are you?
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Very good. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
I would absolutely. I'm Holly. I'm a host. I'm an entrepreneur and part landowner and author and host. I do many things: actress and speaker and acrylic painter. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm from the South. I'm from the South, and born in the South. Now in Los Angeles and in the entertainment industry. So thank you so much for having me, Jonathan.
Okay, good to know. You have so many talents. Yeah. As you know, we mostly talk about food. So I'm
Yes,
curious to know what your relationship with food.
absolutely. Jonathan, so I'm from the South. And as a result, my grandmother was actually from Alabama. And when I talk about Alabama, it's known for many things. It's mainly known for food, Jonathan. It's known for its food. It's known for yams and putting everything on stuff. It's known for its beurre, butter. It's known for sucre. It's, it's known for the yams and potatoes and stuff like that. I mean, just you get everything, Jonathan. And so growing up, it's interesting because my uncle, I come from a family making, pie making family, brisket making family. When I say brisket, I mean brisket. So basically, like we're talking, we make sport out of this. Like brisket, poitrain. So basically, you get up, you let the meat, you marinate the meat, and then you get up every 3 hours and cook this meat. And that's just at different times that we have around here, known as the rodeo, and that happens every summer. Brisket and ribs, that sort of thing. So food is a necessity in my family and around my family. Now, in Alabama, my grandmother, oh my gosh, she and her mother would whip it up growing up. I mean, they knew how to make the butter, the butter, the butter, the butterier it is, the better it is, Jonathan. And so my mother, she continues on in that Alabama tradition with making meatloaf. And what that is basically a pound of meat. And then you put tomatoes and you stuff it with that. And then you just put tomato sauce in it, just things like that. You cook these things. My uncle makes pies. He makes apple pies. And basically he does this out of career and entertainment purposes. He home makes each pie. The flour is original. So growing up, it was never, in other words, for Thanksgivings and things, we never bought store cooked anything. There was fresh sopapilla cheesecake, just for instance. These things were mostly made of farine, flour, sucre, beurre, just cinnamon, cannelle. So basically cream cheese, butter, flour, sugar, in that oven, were basically what my family had growing up. And a tradition in my family, and an actual ingredient, special ingredients. It's a secret ingredient, secret. It's called French toast. French toast is exactly how it sounds. So growing up, there was a secret ingredient that my grandfather actually, and my grandmother, because they cooked together, and they made breakfast every morning, things like that together. Now my grandfather's not from the South. He's from Pennsylvania. He's from all over, because he served our country. So he made my aunts and my uncles and my mother. He made them all French toast with a secret ingredient. I don't know if I can say that secret ingredient, but I'm gonna give it away. It was cinnamon and nutmeg, the nutmeg. And to this day, no one else makes French toast with nutmeg. It's a secret ingredient. And my mother passed it down from him. He was passed it down from his mother. She was so artsy, and she made all that. Now, just cooking is just a tradition in my family. Everyone can cook. There's not a person who can. I mean, like, I microwave the most out of everybody in my family. I use the microwave, but I'm talking like 3-layer pie, pecan pie, lemon pie, sopapilla cheesecake, brisket, where you would have to rotate it. You get up, you time it, and you get up every 3 hours, and you make it until it is so moist. It's brisket is known in Texas. It's known from the South, just like Alabama is known for its yams and macaroni and cheese and things like that. Now 3 layers of macaroni and cheese and such. So yeah, it's coming from the South. It's food is definitely a tradition that, steaks, that kind of thing that you serve with potatoes. I mean, it's a whole thing. Like, my family, we do it serious, Jonathan. So yeah, it's a really big thing to be from the South, because when you're from the South, that you will sit down and you will eat. Especially on Thanksgiving and all the holidays, and especially birthdays, there will be dessert served at every single meal. So we're the type of we're family. We're a pie eating, sweet eating. We believe in food. So
That's amazing. I have so many questions and comments to. First of all, thank you so much for breaking the cliche that Americans don't cook.
Yeah.
From what you said, it's pretty hardcore. Like, you cook for hours, and you need to time it, and it's very very neat.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Then when you said your grandparents cook for everyone, I'm like, if you do a meal or something like if you do an event or something like that, I would definitely advertise it, because it seems like a very, very joyful family that you have.
Absolutely. My mother was actually filmed from a pilot that was actually it was this pilot surrounded by cooking. A lot of women just got together and cooked. And so she was filmed on that. Yeah, and the show never got picked up, but it was a great concept. It might get picked up one day. Who knows? I can't really say a whole lot about it because I haven't been at liberty to. But my mother, I mean, she can make. I mean, she can bake. She can cook. She can stir fry, that kind of thing. She would always be the type of woman. The neighborhood kids, Haley and I, my sister and I, and my brother and I, we never really had friends. We just had eaters in our neighborhood, and what that meant is people would only come to our house because there was a cake right on the. It was like a buffet. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jonathan? Like it was like a little bitty buffet thing where you would take the top off and you would put the cake, like it was like a buffet holder for a dessert, and you knew in every house that that's what it was known for. And so you knew that it was never empty growing up living in our neighborhood, and the neighborhood kids would always come for a meal. We were like, we don't even, it got to a point where my mother just stopped, just to, hey, what does everyone want tonight, kind of thing. I mean, she was just known as making a dessert and making type of cake or chocolate chip cookies, that sort of thing. So there was always something in there. And so the neighborhood kids would always come over, and we were like, we don't have friends, we have family now, because we're all sitting down and eating.
Right.
So
Like,
growing up, social environments were always different for my siblings and I growing up. So that's how we took it.
that sounds super nice. I'm in awe
Yeah.
of that type of families. It's super nice.
Yeah.
One of the cook from our community is doing the same. Like he seems to be cooking for his own village all the time, and everybody knows that. Yeah, at his table there will always be good food, etc. So yeah, I sense that you had this kind of family. That's why I was trying to fish if you do any kind of event meal or whatever. But it seems like it's what you've been doing forever. So
Yeah, absolutely. And we really, growing up, we never knew our neighborhood kids' names, and they never knew our names. They just kind of knew us by each other's request of what we wanted for, like, the type of dessert, like how hungry we were that day. Like, oh, who's the hungriest? Well, that was that person's name at that point. You're hungry, and you're hungrier, and you're hungriest. So yeah, it was definitely a blessing to see, to come home after school and to kind of see that dessert just resting in that buffet, counter space. It was great. And for making my first, it's funny that my mother's on a cooking show, and I should probably combine with her now, because my first cookie that I made, it just all ran together and it fell out of the oven. And so that was my first time cooking. And so then I learned after that to make Crisco instead of butter. And that's what I learned growing up. That was kind of my secret butter recipe. And that's what made my cookies so good. And the homemade cookies that I do from scratch: oatmeal, peanut butter, chocolate chip, vanilla, whatever. Yeah.
so nice, so cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm very curious to know, do you actually grow your own food? Like, did your family grow their food, or how does it work? Because you seem to have,
Actually, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, you talked about cinnamon, nutmeg. I have no idea of what is growing in the south of the US, but yeah, I'm just curious. In the case of this guy, Nicholas, a dear member of our community, he is growing stuff in his garden, his backyard. So yeah, I'm just wondering if this tradition of cooking in your family is actually coming from growing.
Yes and no, Jonathan. That's a great question. That's a great question. So we are from the type of area. I'm from the type of area. I was in the countryside before I moved into the city. And now, when I'm not in California and I'm visiting home, I visit the countryside. And around these parts, around the parts that I grew up in, I was raised in a very rural, area. I don't know how they call it in France. I don't know what the countryside is called in France, but in America, when they have that, it's we can our stuff. My parents are divorced, so one side, my father and my stepmother, they can their stuff. They can their beets and things like that, just things that you do, that you can foods and stuff, and you do grow foods, but you just can't grow anything to kind of do with the dessert wise. You just kind of grow squash, tomatoes, that sort of thing, and there's a whole thing to it. Like my mother, she doesn't grow a lot. She prefer, like, she gets store bought, now, but I'm sure she used to have a garden. It's just such maintenance. But we can things, like we put them in a jar. We don't can. It's not like a can stuff like that. Like, we put things in a jar. Yes, we definitely grow stuff. But it's where, like, where I come from, you don't need to write down a recipe. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where a bunch of women, like, a bunch of church women and a bunch of neighborhood mothers. We just kind of got together with the kids, and everyone was just in the kitchen, really. And you learned it. It was one of those things where, you know, we're made to, we make our own food. In other words, like your parents don't make your food. If your parents may make your food, then you go to college, you figure it out yourself, you know, type of thing. But yeah, you didn't write anything down. You just did it, and you just whipped it together. You know, it was one of those meals. A lot of the desserts that are from the South and by Southern women and stuff like that, they're remembered. They're just a recipe that remembered. You know, a bunch of women that just put together, whipped up some ingredients, and it ended up being so good just by the natural butter attached to it, just by certain things. So
nice. Yeah, it sounds yeah, some very dear and very fond memories of you this cooking together.
Yes, yes, it was. It was very, growing up, that kind of made it, honestly, I was so spoiled. I never even, I knew that I was around it, but I didn't have to do it. But it was one of those things where if you were around that, you were naturally going to partake in it. Like, in other words, you're going to get in there, and one of the, you know, you're going to help mama out in the kitchen. So you're going to ground the meat. You're going to make sure the whole meal is prepared. It's a family affair. It was a family affair growing up. It was never one of those things where, you know, someone cooked a meal for us. So type of thing. It was learned. It was passed down, you know.
Nice. Then I have a question. Yeah, as you mentioned, you're now in California. What type
Yes.
of meal would make you feel home? Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Probably chicken spaghetti. Probably chicken spaghetti.
Okay, you
And
need
the
to elaborate
only
on that.
yes, chicken spaghetti. And the only reason I say that is because meatloaf, I love it, but honestly, I see my mother a lot. And you know, because she comes and goes, I stay, but she comes and goes type of thing. So when she's in town, she makes it for me. What I don't get a lot is chicken spaghetti, because it's more favored by my sister and myself. It's one of those recipes that's really, really, like, for some reason it's not cooked that often, like not like meatloaf is. Like, it's not, I think meatloaf is actually quite more simple than chicken spaghetti, because I think that you have to cook the spaghetti part type of thing. So if I'm gonna, yeah, anything with spaghetti, because I like it. I love Italian food. That's my favorite type of food. Ironically, I'm from the South and I love Italian food the most. You know, and pizzas and things, but it's probably chicken spaghetti is the most Southern you can get. Because it's different. It's different, and you have to cook the chicken, you have to cook the spaghetti, and you have to cook it separately. It's one of those separations coming together, kind of like an egg to the yolk is. You know, there are different ways to make an eggs Benedict, an eggs, you know, poached, whatever type of thing. So
Okay, sounds
yeah,
delicious. I
yeah,
just want to be down on something that you said. You're from the South and you like Italian food. I don't think it's exceptional. Everybody seem to like food which are not from his own place. So I think it's very normal. People like sushi. People like there's a big thing for poke bowls in here in
yes.
Switzerland. So yeah, I don't think the food we like is related to where we live anymore. What do
You're
you think?
very right. You're very right. You're very right. You know, food is a universal language, like music is. You know, it's passed down. But the only problem is today, people are spending so much time, you know, by distraction and media and things like that, and in their day-to-day lives, and in the mundane, that a meal prepared together is actually growing very scarce. And it, you know, growing up, you know, the kids get older. That's just reality. You know, people have obligations. That's understandable. But most people, if you ask, you know, who did the most of the cooking in the house? Oh, it was my father, type of thing, because the roles reversed. Women were once in the kitchen and now they're in the work field, and now men were once working and now they're in the kitchen. And I have no comment on that part. But at the same time, it's one of those things where unless the kid sees it, it doesn't really get passed down. And children remember that. But that's such a warm feeling. And I feel like that needs to be encouraged every holiday season, because food is a universal language. And if you like, as they say, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And I was raised on that. So it was one, so I mean, I was raised on the fact that you could get anything from a meal, and I was also raised where, you didn't have to be family to cook for somebody. You just did. You just cooked and you brought it over to your neighbor's house and things like that when they were sick or whenever you wanted to get to know them or things. I mean, I was raised with hospitality. There's Southern hospitality and there's Southern cooking kind of way of life.
It's amazing. I definitely agree 100% with what you say. I think, food has such amazing power to bring people together, and that's amazing. And I think these days we're not doing that so much, and I'm glad you confirmed that. It is the same in the US. In Europe, it's barely the case that you spend time, eat together, let alone invite your neighbors. Maybe in the countryside, but in the city, never. It's quite rare. And
no, I'd have to. Go ahead.
No, nothing.
I would have to agree with you on that. I've definitely seen some in Europe, and especially it's so different from America, because America, we want our meals instantaneous. And in Europe, sometimes you'll have to wait in the kitchen, and like you said about gardens, people grow their own and things like that. And I think that's awesome, where you don't have to rely and go to the store and just spend extra money and things are less fresh and they're better for you and they're better for your health and stuff like that. So people grow their own gardens, but people don't want to wait 4 or 5 hours for a salad and fresh and a fresh meal. They don't want to wait that long. In America, we don't want to wait that long. And even if we have our own gardens, the average meal does not take about 4 to 6 hours. But in Europe, especially, that might be that's a normal in many parts of Europe. So I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, well, I think in the US you tend to idealize Europe, and we do the same, by the way.
Yes.
But I think most people don't spend too much time cooking. So
no. Yes.
And also, that's the thing I wanted to say. You cooked me on that. So there is also a trend that people have specific diets in Europe, and I guess it's the same in the US. So basically, when you want to try to bring everybody together, then there would be somebody who is vegan, somebody who is gluten-free. That's my case. There would be somebody following a special diet, etc. So that makes it's a trend. In my opinion, it's a trend, and that makes cooking together even harder. Like, people don't have already time for it, but the diet thing makes it harder. So, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. No, I completely think that same thing. As far as the way I was raised and the way I continue it is that there's Southern hospitality, and hospitality is behind the Southern part, because if someone is gluten-free or has food allergies or prefers this or prefers that, you didn't just, you're so strict on that meal, like, that person can't eat. There was no walking away from the table. Like, when the meals were served growing up for me, you ate it. And, you were accommodated for, you don't like this, so we'll make that. That wasn't, if cornbread, and if somebody had a bread allergy or something in the bread or an egg allergy, they couldn't eat eggs or something like that, they made it without it, and they made their own type of special bread. Absolutely. I mean, the point was there was so much hospitality and warmth and the need to just kind of sit down and that sort of thing, that it was you made something else right then and there. You made something else, and that was that, and everyone got fed, type of thing. So absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. Another question for you. You mentioned cinnamon as the secret, cinnamon and nutmeg as secret ingredients for your pies. Did I get it right?
Yes. Well, French toast, but that
Oh,
can be
thank you.
in pies too.
Sorry, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
pies
sorry,
too.
sorry, sorry. Then would you say those spices are your favorites, or is there any ingredients that you cannot live without?
Oh yes. I love garlic salt. I love garlic salt. I love cinnamon, and I do is if ever I'm snacking, and this is so bad for you because it's just a lot of bread, and I heavily believe in balance in life where you can eat, but you can also work out things like that. You mind your health, and so with that being said, I'll graze. I'm a grazer by nature. I eat here and there, because of the way I was raised. And so um, I'll make myself some toast and I'll put cinnamon, sugar, and butter on it. That's it. I don't make it with anything else. And the reason why is because of the way that I made French toast, that I was taught to make French toast growing up. I have that taste already. And no nutmeg in it because you don't make nutmeg with just bread and sugar and cinnamon and butter type of thing. So yeah, I for sure on that. Those are I cannot live without butter. Barrere, no. Barrere, no Barrere is no bon boy. No, it's no good. And so butter and garlic salt, Worcestershire, and things that you would put on steaks, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's just certain things. And in the South, Worcestershire sauce is what you put on a lot. That and A1 for steaks, things like that, like steak sauces, that sort of thing. We buffalo spices are really big in the South because we use a lot of meats. We eat a lot of meats. So yeah, I'd say that's a must.
Nice one. And once again, you're breaking so many cliches. Like you see, I would have expected that. I mean, yeah, maybe not that extreme, but that spices for you was ketchup, mayo, or stuff like that. And you're talking cinnamon, you're talking garlic and nutmeg. So it's amazing. And thank you for breaking the cliche that Americans don't cook and yeah, that you don't appreciate good food. It's clearly not the case.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we don't do it as spicy as Indian food. I've been in some cultures, and I've had to sit down amongst beautiful and very sweet Indian families and things like that. And I'm telling you, I cannot cut the spice. Now, those foods I've tried, and you develop accustomed to it, but my nose ran, your nose will run, and unless you're like used to that, so we're not as spicy as some cultures, type of thing. And other cultures are very different from us. But at the end of the day, we in the South, we love that that tang, that, in the tongue. We love that. So.
Nice for sharing. Thank you so much. Okay, we're near the end of the show. Would you have any advice from the top of your experience to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna end with a quote about food because that's what this podcast is about, and that's really the kind of the thesis of it. Food for us comes from our relatives, whether they have wings or fins or roots. That is how we consider food. Food has a culture, it has a history, it has a story to tell, and it has relationships. By Winona LaDuke. I love that line because food has heart. And the only way, honestly, that you can become a family again, if you ever lacked time with one another, is in unity in eating. That's how I was raised. So I believe that the advice that I would give is this. If you see food and it's given to you, and especially if it's free, take it. take it and just smile and say thank you. And believe me, learn that recipe, because someone else is, you're always going to go and follow food. Everyone follows food, whether it comes to dessert or a meal prepared or something, or whatever the food is. People are going to follow that, especially if they're hungry. People go where they're fed. So that's the advice that I would always give, is never deny a meal. Wherever it's coming from, never deny the meal. But watch how it's prepared in front of you. So.
Thank you so much for this beautiful piece of advice.
Absolutely, Jonathan.
Thank you, really. That was Holy Hester. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and thank you for taking the time and for your podcast today. It was a joy to be on.
Great stuff. So bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this mouth-watering journey through Southern cooking with Holy Hester. We hope her stories and insights have inspired you to embrace the joy of cooking and the power of food to bring people together. Remember, food is a universal language that transcends cultural boundaries. So don't be afraid to try new flavors and share your own culinary creations. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving a review. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep sharing and caring.